Bam! Do you want to know what the bottom of an avatar's shoe looks like?
No. Stop it. We're going now. Hello, and welcome to Abnormal Mapping, episode 76. I am your host, M. With me is my regular co-host, Jackson Tyler.
I'm from the future.
So, we're recording this on the 22nd. Most of this episode will have been recorded on the 26th of last month?
I think so.
Yes.
Did we play The Floor is Jelly? Is that what this episode's about?
Yeah, it's the room, old sins, and the floor is jelly. That's what this episode's about.
Okay.
We did that a little less than a month ago, because I was edited that files together this morning, waiting to record this podcast. So Jackson, you've been in school hell.
I'm still in school hell. I'm not
You only
done.
have a week left of school hell, though.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Look, it is known how bad at time management and doing things and just general brain nonsense I am. Don't have me do fucking a full dissertation and other stuff, especially with things creative. It's bad. I've been doing creative writing assignments that I'm they're not very good, but that's what working to the university briefs is like. You've experienced me explaining
yes, the prompts are bad, the expectations are low. You are making this more harder on yourself than you need to be, because when you shit something out, you still get the best grade you could possibly get on it. So chill.
I have shot something out for both of the assignments that are in tomorrow, and I did pretty good. I'm sure they'll be fine. I'm not worried I will fail them. So 2 out of 4 assignments are basically done as we speak.
Yeah.
And once I'm free of this, I get to play God of War.
We're not going to talk about God of War. We have been tasked with writing about God of War, each of us, by our friend Omar. Please thank them when all this goes up, but also, fuck Omar. Thanks. Fuck.
Yeah. Some money was raised because the glowing... Everyone knows. It's fine. I won't even go into it. But...
I mean, a lot of people probably don't know. So, our friend Omar...
Should we go into it?
Yes, at Cigarettes, S-I-E, right? S-I-E?
S-I-E.
Yes, and the rest is just cigarettes. Was like, oh, all the original God of War reviews are the most glowing, game of the generation bullshit possible, but they're all written by fucking dads in their 40s. And so they got together a crowdfunding thing to get a bunch of people who were not, white dads, to fucking write some pieces. And me and Jackson were tasked as part of this. And so we got God of War, and we're going to play it. And we're going to write about it, and that'll go up eventually. The means of that will be determined when it goes up. We'll let you know, but it won't be till next month.
It won't be till next month. Mine might be a little bit behind because of I haven't even started the game yet. Dia's finished. You're a few hours in.
I'm a few hours in. God of War is fucking terrible. I said it on this week's Your Face Would Never, which I will talk about in a second. This fucking game is so bad, and I'm going to play it most of the rest of today when we're done with this. I'm so miserable about it.
If I may quote you of a minute ago, we're not talking about God of War.
Yeah, I just wanted to give people the context because we brought it up, and a lot of people are not on this bubble. We have a lot of listeners who only kind of enjoy video games in a healthy way, unlike the rest of us.
I haven't touched it yet. I have watched some footage. I have heard everyone else's takes, so I'll be coming to it as late as you can come to a game that's only been out a week. And yeah, so we'll see how that goes. I did go back and play God of War 1, so that's what I do because I'm me.
How's God of War 1?
It's fine.
Okay. We have a new podcast.
Yes, we do. What is the new podcast called? Pitch me.
I am doing a podcast with my partner, Destiny. If you've been listening to this a long time, you have heard her on these episodes. She used to be kind of regular around here. It is called Your Faves Would Never. You can find it at yourfaveswouldnever.fyi. It is a weekly show where we just kind of talk about our week, what we've been up to. This week, the one that came out 2 days ago is about Nintendo Labo, which we will cover. We talk extensively about building it and what we think about it there. So I'm not going to repeat any of that. You can go listen. it's a good show. We're trying to get off the ground. There's no iTunes yet because iTunes is dragging its goddamn feet. But if you just go to that website, you can find the RSS link and put it in your podcatcher of choice. It's good. I'm excited to be doing it. I'm excited for more people to listen to it. Because it's weekly, we can more actively ask people to like participate and respond to stuff. And I'm looking forward to that getting going.
Yep, it's a good podcast. I listen to it. I endorse it. It's good stuff.
Yeah. Other than that, I have really not been playing too many video games. I've been reading a lot. I played some Sonic Racing. I got a Steam Link. I did get a Steam Link.
Well done.
If you have the need of a Steam Link in your life, you're like, oh, I know how that would work in my situation. And you can get it on sale when they regularly put it on sale for a goddamn $1. You should get one.
Yeah, you said it was fine. Like latency was fine, image was fine. Yeah. It was all fine.
I don't even know mine wired. It suggests doing it wired. I just have it wireless, and it's fine.
To be clear, you've got a pretty good router, and it's fairly close. It's just like one room away.
I mean, it's like through all of my computer stuff and a wall. So I don't know.
Fair enough. Well, it's
not sometimes like the Steam Link is great. Sometimes the Switch says I'm at 2 bars and is slow, so I don't understand the wall.
Well, yeah, I'm moving house soon, and my internet situation is going to be such that I might have to have my router downstairs, and that's going to be a nightmare. So,
yeah.
We shall see. Anyway, that's basically what's going on in terms of like our general stuff, playing games. I've played some games, but like it's been a month. I remember. I'll talk about things better when I've done things.
Yeah, I've got a custom Xbox controller from the Xbox Design Lab.
You did. That did look pretty cool.
It's cool. If you can afford it. Because I got the Steam Link, I was like, we need an Xbox controller out in the living room. That's just a necessity, and I went ahead and did it because they had a sale where it was like $10 off and free shipping. It seems like it's usually free shipping, but there was a $10 off on top of it. They're nice controllers. The Xbox One, probably my favorite controller.
I would agree.
Yeah. So it's nice. It's nice to be able to get some colors. More controllers should be in more colors than like white, black, and gray and camo or whatever the fuck they put out these days. My brother has a camo Xbox One controller, and it's the most obnoxious thing.
Oh, what's it like living with a gamer?
I don't know. I helped him put together his like gamer chair, which is also camo because it was cheaper, and it's a nice chair. I wish I had one. I'm not going to pay the amount of money he paid for it. But...
I would also buy a camo chair if the chair was cheaper in camo, just because I don't give a fuck. I'm not going to spend money on chairs.
The difference was like $10 or $20. I would pay $20 to not sit in camo.
That's fair enough. You live with people though? Like I live with my, I don't have a partner.
Just for my own like self like satisfaction. No one else would care. I would care because I'm gonna have that chair for probably at least 5 years. Like I want like a nice like just like an orange or something.
I mean, as part of this move, I have to buy a new a chair of some description. So we'll see what I end up getting. Will I get a hashtag gamer chair?
I don't know.
Probably not. I know they're meant to be good, but whatever.
Yeah. All right. So we already have like this pre-recorded segment. It's already like an hour long, so please enjoy that. As I said, we play The Room, Old Sins, and The Floor is Jelly, and we talk about it. I listen to it. It's a good podcast. So please enjoy that. We'll be back on the other side with some questions and what we're going to play next month. And you know how this works. We don't, because we haven't done this in forever. So music. Our first game club this month is The Room, Old Sins. Jackson, this is a new game. What did we do? We fucked up.
This is no, you fucked up. You said, let's do The Room, Old Sins as well. And I said, okay, are you sure you want to do that? Because it's a new game. And you said yes. So, hoisted.
You're supposed to yes and, not no but. You were doing the absolute opposite of the bit.
Not only am I no butting, but I'm also like picking you up and throwing you directly under a bus.
Yes. So we have an informal but pretty ironclad rule that we don't do new games on neural mapping, but we did cover the rooms 1 through 3 last year, or was that 2 years ago?
Oh God, I don't know. It would have been at the beginning of last year because it was after Tomb Raider.
Okay. And a new one came out, and we were like, let's just do it because they're great. And we're still at the end of Jackson trying to get done with school, and we wanted short games. So this is a short game. We were like, we love The Room. Let's talk about The Room. So The Room Old Sins is by Fireproof Games. It came out in 2018, sometime earlier this year. Don't ask me when. I was told about it by Jackson, who was like, there's a new Room. And I was like, what? Excuse me, a new Room? And then we immediately got and downloaded The Room and played it.
Yes, I basically played it in a weekend.
Yep.
It was in January, and like I was like, holy shit, there's a new Room. There's a new Room? And then you were like, what? There's a new Room? And we both had the new Room. It was fantastic. The best experience. No trailers, no nothing. We just saw the game was there and played it. It was great.
Yep. So, Jackson, what is the premise of The Room Old Sins?
Oh, God. Okay, so The Room Old Sins, as ever with The Room games, is a little vague about its premise, but you are someone, in the attic of a mansion, which is called Waldgrave Manor.
Yes.
And you find in the attic of the mansion a model of the like a dollhouse that is a model of that mansion.
Specifically, you are sent there because the husband and wife who ran this mansion disappeared mysteriously.
Mysterious disappearance.
Yes.
Right, I forgot that's the thing that they say while you're there.
Yeah.
So you're there because the husband and wife disappeared, and you're here to solve the mystery of this mansion. And you find a dollhouse that is a model of the mansion that you're in. And because this is a room game, you immediately start interacting with it and like solving puzzles and opening boxes and stuff. As you like use your eyeglass to zoom in into the dollhouse and manipulate it from the inside as if it was an actual house you were standing in, and it plays with scale. There's lots of multi-room puzzles. It is another one of these games, but in just a different kind of scale and design around one specific dollhouse set piece, and that's like the concept of the game. If you've never played a room game before, I would listen to the other podcasts we do, but basically what you do is you are presented with like a series of items that you have to interact with in order to make things happen, which is a very broad thing, but it's like you see a gate, so you like open it, and everything's very tactile. You have to do every single thing. So you would like unhinge the latch, pull the thing back, then open the gate. All of that is through touchscreen movement and is very like satisfying to do. And as you like do that, you like solve puzzles. It's like opening the gate brings you this key, which you can then use in this other part of the like contraption. And it's all like loads of contraptions that interlock in various ways. And this design has expanded over the course of the now 4 games. And basically that's what the room is. I think that's a good summary.
Yeah, specifically in this one, when you examine the dollhouse, you go, like, you turn on a light, and what you see is like a dead body and like a weird tentacle thing, and it disappears, and then you explore this dollhouse, and the dollhouse itself is a big puzzle box, and then as you interact with the pieces, you open up doors or windows or walls, and much like the Room 3 is the one that had the stuff where you went inside things, right?
Yes.
Okay. You can go inside these rooms much like you did in the Room 3, but instead of one-off puzzles, it leads you into the discrete puzzle rooms of something like the Room 2, where it's like, where in that game it was like, oh, here's the Egypt room, and then here's the like old-fashioned sailing ship room. These are like, here is the conservatory, here is the kitchen. But in discrete spaces, unlike the Room 3 where you walk throughout the mansion like it was Myst or something.
So it's like the design is like the Room 2 is basically a series of, I don't remember how many, maybe like 6 or 7 discrete room puzzles in like new rooms with new designs. Every single one is a very specific place. And then the Room 3 is like interlocked like areas within a mansion. And then you would go to like, I'm going to this area with with the lighthouse. And it would be one puzzle contained there, but much bigger than the puzzles in the Room 2. This is more, the dollhouse itself is made up of rooms that are the size and scale of Room 2's puzzles, but you can go in and out between them at any time, depending on which ones are unlocked. There's much more interlocking stuff, but the puzzles themselves are not grand and obtuse in the way that the Room 3 was. It's a very smart game in how it's designed and like what it like takes from the Room 3 and the Room 2, because we have like feelings on both of those games and what they achieve. Because I know like basically one of our feelings coming off that Room episode was that the Room 2 is like the peak of this idea, and the way they expand it out in the Room 3 does like made us feel like, it's not sustainable, can you not actually make it bigger? And this game is like a really smart way of trying to ask, how do we make this bigger without like taking away the very specific feeling of all these spaces that makes it work?
Yeah. So what happens is you go into the first room that you open up, and in there is the puzzle box, and you can solve the puzzle box, or you get items, and eventually you will get items that will be like, I wonder where this goes. It looks like it goes on the dollhouse. You'll zoom back out and put it on the dollhouse, and you won't be done with the first room, but it'll open up a second room then. Yes. And in doing so, you then expand the amount of rooms you can have, and pieces that you find in each room might interact with other rooms. And then you'll keep going and you'll unlock maybe like 3 rooms or so. And then you'll close off the first room. You'll finish the last bit of puzzle there. You'll get the story progression item that lights up one of the seals that's on the attic of the dollhouse. And it closes off and it says chapter complete. And then you can't go back to that room. And the way in which it slowly expands out as it closes off rooms means that it, like, the widest point of this game in the middle, you have about like 4 or 5 rooms you have something to do in and try to figure out where to maneuver in that space. And it's a great way of doing like an interlocking puzzle that's better than the way the room 3 at the very end kicks you loose and says, hey, there's a meta puzzle here you didn't even know about. Figure it out. We're not going to help you anymore. Which is terrible. It's the worst thing in the world.
And like, I get why they did that, because obviously people say that the room is too easy, and it is a very easy game as a puzzle game goes. Like, it's not only are the puzzles fairly simple, but it then like will within every like 90 seconds will be like, hey, here's how you do the puzzle, because it's more about the momentum of opening these like chains, and then suddenly they're like, hey, we've actually put a real puzzle in this game. And if you're like us, you're like, oh, fuck off, why'd you do that?
Yeah.
I assume there are people that like really love that stuff in the room 3, but they are not us.
The problem with that puzzle is none of the things you've done before that prepare you for the mechanics of how that puzzle works at all.
No, not even a little bit. It is its own entirely separate, massive thing.
Also, the room 3 is very in love with like arcane mechanisms that you just kind of fiddle with until something lines up right. And it really got away from the idea that the room is about very simple mechanical like interactions in the same way like Myst was, right? It's about throwing levers and turning knobs to find secret drawers than it is like aligning 7 different eye chambers to make sure a laser goes through and hits an arcane artifact just right with the right color, which is the bullshit that room 3 is about a lot.
Yes, the room 3 is in like a very weird space because you get kidnapped and sent to this place and everything's very strange and like bad, and you're like in the depths of its weird Lovecraftian influences. The room Old Sins like pulls it back and is very specifically, this is a house, and a very recognizable house in terms of it's like just a Victorian house, very stereotypical design. And what that ends up doing is giving the game like the game spaces a very real context, and you're like just opening drawers because these are the drawers that would be there. The room 1 was like just weird boxes in a room on a table, whereas this is the first time that like everything is like it's more mundane than any of the room games, and it gives the like it almost makes it feel stranger because obviously it's weird to be moving around eye lasers to make Lovecraftian things show up, but that's not the same thing as like moving 3 drawers to unlock a knob that then reveals a slightly different thing when you turn on your like eye vision that then you see differently. Like just putting strangeness in a mundane context makes it feel actually more alien than just here's a bunch of shit. Which we're shitting on the room 3, which we don't mean to do. It's a really good game. It's just like the weakest one of the room games that we've played. Yes,
and now this game, which marries the ambition of the room 3 with the stuff we didn't like about the stuff that the room 2 does. This is the best room game, straight up.
Yes, easily.
Yeah. There's no way to like couch this in any other terms. I love this game a lot.
It's great. We had a fantastic time with it. Just blaze through it.
And then this is the first game that has like a story I liked, which is weird.
So the story before, like, basically the first 2 games had no story except like these like letters from A, who was like, I've discovered the null element, and you know, and the first game had basically nothing, as you're like, the null element, what's that? And then it was Cthulhu. And then you go into, you know, that game ends with you being like trapped in the null element. It's the big twist ending, as, you know, you looked at the weird creepy thing too long and you became one with it. I have also played Bloodborne and read a book. The room 2 was you then like going deeper into this element and trying to escape, and you found A's body, who had become trapped in there and died, and you're like, oh, I can't die, I have to get out, and then you get out. So those first 2 games were basically very little stories, quote unquote, just mostly like tropes and theming, which was fine. They're very light games with that touch. The room 3 has a big story, and you're like the same dude, you've been escaped, you thought you were free, but you get kidnapped by a guy who's like betraying you. I barely remember the room 3, but it gets to like this secret society stuff. and the people who want to control the null element in order to, like, you know, power the British Empire, blah 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 blah. Which I don't really remember the stuff in the Room 3 because it's been a year now, but that's essentially what that game was doing. This game, however, is like the context is very specific. It's this one family. What happened to this family? And you see, like, you find books in every room that, like, explain the relationship between the husband and wife. And then there's, like, newspaper clippings that, like, fill in things that will, you know, are kind of relevant. And then it has a big twist ending that you probably figured out 5 minutes in, but it's still pretty good.
Yeah. Also, like, specifically, it's the one, like, art, like the painting room puzzle in which you see the like reality of this couple, like, falling apart as they chase after this aether and like the null element, and then start to, like, fall apart as they go into suspicion of each other, and one of them leaves, and it's just a very good, like, very concrete, almost like what's it called, almost like What Remains of Edith Finch style storytelling puzzle. And I just didn't think the room had that in it as a thing it could do.
Yeah, I mean, like, that is true, but also it's basically, what if the Room 1 and 2 were more? Like, it's the same thing as, like, you have a note from A and then you're like, oh, he died and went mad from the null element. That's, like, the 2-line summary, and that's essentially what happens to this family, but they just added nuance and humanity to it and just did that. Rather, instead of blowing it up into an unrelated thing about secret societies, you just get to see a more human story, which is nice to see. Because, like, the actual final sequence of the game revolves around, like, recreating the events of how this all went down, and as basically you're moving statues around of the dude trying to find Abigail. And then, like, you find her and she disappears, and then you go into the next layer of the box, and each time you go into the dollhouse, it like the sky is ashen, and there's more tentacles around and more black goo everywhere, and you go further and further and deeper in, and eventually it all falls apart, and, you know, you see the truth of it. And it's like, oh no, she was trying to save you, you were the wrong person. And then, you know, he's called Richard, right? Richard and Abigail. Somebody knows the names in my head. It's been a few weeks.
Think so. Yeah, it's been even longer for me.
Yes. Oh God, it has been a while. Jesus. But he's essentially like, oh, I don't trust her, but she's the one trying to, like, save them both and escape. And obviously the final twist is you are not there to find out what happened to this family. You are there to find the element that, the null element that is in this house somewhere. And she has hidden it, and found a way to, like, escape this. And you, through solving the dollhouse puzzle, there's like, the actual ending of the game is really cool, where you essentially find the element itself, which is just a glowing rock that isn't anything, and put it in your strange science briefcase.
And then you deposit it to the big secret society in a giant, like, room full of statues and chanting men. It's very ridiculous.
Yes, that part is less cool, but hilarious.
Yes, it's very funny. I would like more stories about this weird, like arcane disaster cleanup guy who basically is, like, in the weird, like, Victorian The Prisoner, right?
That interpretation of the room is not one I had thought of until you said it, but it's incredibly spot on.
Yes.
Holy shit.
The way in which he just kind of walks in and deposits a briefcase in the middle of, like, this huge, like, temple antechamber is the most hilarious thing to me, because he like sets it down and then just walks off like it's his job that he does this, like, 6 times a day or a week, and it was very funny.
Yeah, no, because that's what I like about it, is you're just like, well, I found my element, guess it's time to leave the attic now, goodbye.
Yeah.
It's a very ridiculous game.
I like it a lot. I'm glad they continue to make these, because I assumed the Room 3 would be the last of the Room things they made. Because it has kind of its own, like, sense of conclusion, and just making, like, I think this is, like, meant to be a prequel, right? I'm pretty sure that's true.
Yes, I think this is how the null element, like, comes into being. But like, so you assume it's going to be a prequel about that stuff, but it ends up being slightly more separate than that, just about this one episode in the, you know, the saga of the secret society.
They could make it about anything. I don't actually really care. I just want them to continue to make puzzle games like this.
Yep. But
I like it a lot.
I assume they'll keep it in the air. These games, I don't know if you could make a game like this with different theming and have it be as good. Like, you just need gears. You need a billion gears and a billion locks and a billion like weird fiddly bits of the tables. Like I don't know what you would do with a game like this if it wasn't in this like Victorian aesthetic. I'd be like interested in what they might do, but I don't necessarily think it would be as good. I think that the aesthetic lends itself to this type of play.
I mean, you could do something like this with like a very like American like trains and going like you could I would like this set on a train going across America in like a spooky Western kind of thing, right? That would be cool. I'd play that game.
Yeah. It'd be cool. I wonder what...
Because it had very similar... Like, yes, it has to kind of be like Industrial Revolution, like gears and puzzle boxes in that way. Otherwise, the whole thing kind of falls apart. Because you have to create arcane bullshit or you're just messing with technology. Like, in a modern sense, like screens and stuff. And I don't want either of those things. But there are more frameworks for gears and puzzle boxes and levers than just Victorian House, which is what every room game has been so far.
Yep. And then now they went like they did the Victorian House. Like, it is the most Victorian House game that they've ever made. They can't just do another one of these. So, like, maybe they just won't. Maybe this is actually the end of the room. But I would, I don't know. I would be curious to see what happens next because I like these games a lot. I assume there are like room-like games somewhere.
Yep.
Because it's not that different to like room escape games, just from a different perspective. It's room escape inwards rather than escape out.
I think that's all I have.
Yep, that's really all we've got. It's a good game.
Yeah, play it. It's like $4. It's on your phones and tablets.
Yeah, it's like $4 and 2 hours long, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a perfect abnormal mapping video game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Our next game is The Floor is Jelly. This is by Ian Snyder with a soundtrack by Disaster Piece. This came out. Jackson, when did The Floor is Jelly come out?
Oh, I don't have the page up. How are you going to do this to me?
Well, it was an IGF student finalist in 2012, which means it probably came out in 2014.
Yeah, no, I think that's about right. I remember playing it. I'm like thinking, God, what house was I at when I first played this game? Oh, this page doesn't even have.
Okay, the launch trailer is dated from 4 years ago on Vimeo, so 2014 sounds like
30th of May 2014 is what Steam says.
Okay, that counts. That's good. I'll take it.
So we're taking it. That's when it came out.
Yeah. The Floor is Jelly is a platformer in which you are a cute little figure on very flat shaded abstract surfaces that represent floating platforms and trees and stuff. And you bounce on them, and as the title says, the floor bounces with you, has a lot of give and physics. It might be, as you might say, jelly.
That's ridiculous.
Jackson,
the most ridiculous thing I've ever had.
You picked this game. Why did you pick this for us to cover?
Did I?
Yes. I was like, let's pick a small game, and you were like, what about the floor is jelly?
Okay, I mean, we were both going through things.
Yes,
we were literally we were going through a list of like, oh god, which of these is in short running time? But no, this is a game I've played a few times but never like finished. So I wanted to see it through to the end and see what this game was all about in a bigger sense than just jumping on jelly. And I'm glad I did. It's not very long and it's mostly a good time. Yeah. It's an interesting game because you play it and you're like, this is a platformer about platforming, and then it's not in a lot of senses. It's more puzzly than I expected.
Oh really? Okay.
Yes.
You want to explain that and explain kind of what the ways in which the game elaborates upon itself?
Yeah, so essentially what the game is like it's a series of levels which are often single screens, but occasionally not, of like a few paths made out of this jelly thing, and you have to get from one window to another window. You jump through the window, you go into the next screen. Sometimes the screen scrolls, sometimes it's a one screen thing, but that's basically how it works. You start out by like, oh, I'm on the side, and if I jump, like there's a big gap and then there's the platform on the other side. I have to get to that platform. And if I jump just regularly, I'd fall immediately off the edge. I don't have enough momentum. So I have to jump a few times so I can like give me some more give and use it like a trampoline with the jelly floor. And then you press A at the bottom of the arc, and then you have much more momentum when you jump, and then you can make the jump. That is the very like early game. Here's what this game is. And the way this ends up expanding in itself is it's like, okay, we're going to introduce big blocks of spikes, and a big block of spike comes in and it's in your way and you can't jump over it, and you realize what you have to do is you have to go like start bouncing on the floor and then run across the bottom of the floor as you bounce so you can run under the block of spike. That is another fairly early puzzle, and it's mostly stuff like that about like your control of the space and the way your momentum works and the way the space interacts with you. But a lot of it revolves around as you get into like the later worlds, because each world has like a discrete mechanic, so a lot of it becomes like puzzle games with very different sets of rules and ideas. Like you'll get into one world and the puzzles will be around rotating essentially the world by like reaching blocks that look like birds and pressing the down button, which will trigger either the world to rotate or a block to rotate or a different set of blocks to rotate, and you have to essentially figure out, okay, so I have to rotate this one, then jump over here in order to get to like the exit, and it becomes less about jumping and more about these rotating puzzles, and jumping is a way to facilitate that. There's another world where there are outlines everywhere, and if you touch the side of an outline, that outline becomes solid, and you have to figure out like, okay, I have to make this bit become solid and jump away from there to hit this other bit so this becomes solid, so I can go inside, like so I can access this area which was originally covered by a solid block but has now been uncovered, and in puzzles like that. So the worlds end up, rather than being like a linear progression through an idea, end up being like discrete like mechanical ideas in themselves, and so it like varies a lot. There are worlds I think are very frustrating, worlds I think that don't work very well, and other worlds I think are really, really good. I'm like, oh, this is a great bit of this game, and so it like definitely varies depending on the core mechanic of each area, which is just not a design I was expecting for this. I was expecting more
which you didn't even mention the best mechanic, which is the underwater world, where half the level's underwater, and underwater works exactly the same as above, but the gravity is reversed.
Yes.
And so you have to like drop down from a height, and so when you hit the water, you continue going down that amount, the same amount, to reach platforms underwater. It's really good the way that
I really
works.
like the underwater world.
Yeah.
Yes.
I also like the outline one, even though it's impossible to explain, but easily, like if you looked at it, you would immediately know what it is, but it's very hard to describe how that outline system works.
Yeah, so essentially the big thing with this game is by being broken down into discrete mechanical areas, each area lives and dies by how much it can teach you what it's asking of you. Because there are some areas that like, so the area with the rotating stuff is my least favorite area in the game, and it was very frustrating. It was where I almost burnt out. Because you get in and you rotate some things, and sometimes the window is closed, and you have to rotate things in a specific order.
Well, no, because it's never about rotating things in a specific order. It's either you need to make sure the black flower is not being rained on because of the rain level, or you need to make sure that the ball of flowers are all open.
Yes, but I never knew how to open the ball flowers, and you have to.
It's just a matter of they have to all be done in order, like it's a Simon thing. Like it has to be like you'll hit one and then you'll hit the other, and either it'll open or not won't, and you have to go back and hit the other one to start with.
Yes, so the first time I did that, I literally came across all of them and they just opened, and I was like, wait, okay, I guess I have to open them. And then they wouldn't do that, so I was like, oh, I guess I have to rotate them into a different position.
No, it is entirely about the order in which you touch them.
Yes, so I didn't realize that because of the way the like mechanics were introduced. So like I was really confused with how the rotating was working. I also didn't work out like the rain was affecting everything directly, because like I rotated a thing already to the correct position and it ended up not like affecting it. Like I just either came at it wrong and just got unlucky with how I encountered the mechanics, or they were arranged bad. Like I'm willing to accept that this is like just on me for how I came.
I mean, this is definitely the like fiddliest bit until the very end, which is fiddly in a different way, but. I think you might have also come at it kind of just weird.
Yeah.
But also the mechanic is not like, it's not what you're here to this game for, is to flip switches and rotate platforms.
Yes, like it turns the game, like it makes the game stop, because basically the worlds that are the best worlds are the worlds that like come up with the puzzle mechanic that gels seamlessly with the ideas of the movement.
Gels
like
seamlessly.
Fuck off. That was that mixed bag. You want to do this? You want to do this?
No.
No, you don't. Didn't think you did. No, but come up with the mechanics that essentially like, I don't know what to say now.
No, it's fine. Pun unintended, obviously, because it stopped you in your tracks.
Yeah. That completely meshes with the actual movement mechanics of the game. So the underwater one is basically exactly the perfect mechanic for this game, because it doesn't even feel like this is this world's gimmick mechanic. It just feels like a natural extension of the world, and the way you interact with it. The outlines section is like very obviously this is the gimmick mechanic of this world, but it is so satisfying to jump from one outline that is there to another one that like you make solid with your touch that it's fine. It doesn't matter that it's a gimmick world. It's great. Those are like my favorite worlds in the game.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like directly the other ones. There's a bunch where you have to like get like go through sub worlds in order to find like things to open doors.
Yeah, it's vaguely nonlinear.
Yes. But it's mostly very pleasant. The design of the game is very just very nice to look at. Lots of soft pastel colors.
Yeah.
Lots of, ambient music, as disaster pieces want to do.
And then the fucking Fez show up.
Yes, and then the fucking Fez show up.
Yep.
As disaster pieces want to do.
Yes. So you complete 2 sets of levels and open the gates, and then you go to this third area, which is like black and white, and it's very stark and different. And
it's also low gravity, so you move at a different speed.
Yes, it's low gravity, and there's no sound at all. Except for like a slow drone that slowly starts to increase upon you as you go. And you go through that, and then you reach like this glowing weird orb, like a cube thing, and you touch it, and then the game like glitches / almost crashes. And then suddenly you have like display errors. They're like bands of color, almost like you put a cartridge in wrong or that was dusty. And if you touch them, you die. And you have to go back through these areas as you gather these special glowing orbs. While the level, like the low gravity area that has been mostly innocuous as you go through it, is now this droning nightmare of like multicolored banding. And that stuff is really cool.
Yeah, like it essentially functions the same as the spikes do, but it's like an aesthetic shift as like the game starts falling apart. Like it's one of those games.
Yep. And you gather all those, and then you go through the last like area, and this colored corruption comes out of the door after you and chases you down, and then the game like seems like it's going to crash again, and then lands you on an area, and you're like, oh, it's just another platformer, the game is fine, whatever. Continue on to the next room, and you go into this big room that has like a pie symbol on it, basically. And when you step on that thing, the game stops and does like this weird scan of the environment, and and then the physics are weird. And you go through the next couple areas. Like I think the first one is the floor is not jelly anymore, I think is what the first one is.
That is not the first one.
What's the first one?
I don't remember, but that's
okay.
The last one. Because that's the one I was expecting. I was like, oh, the floor's going to not be jelly now. But no, it's like
there's definitely one where you don't have as much impact on the jelly to start off with. It's very light.
Yeah. So basically, the reason this is confusing is because this, like, essentially the end of the game is an exercise in how many weird ways they can fuck with the floor and its jelliness. Like you'll start standing one of these cycles through, you will start standing on the floor, and then it will just like go down and down and down, and it won't have like any kind of bounce to it, and you'll just like, the more you stand on the floor, the more you like get rid of any place to stand and any ability to move. And there'll be a couple puzzles based around the fact of, okay, if I stand on this bit and then jump away at the last moment, then this platform will disappear, but then I can jump through the space where the platform was to access the door. And then the next one will be like, oh, now there's too much bounce. Now I cannot control myself at all. I'll jump on the jelly, and it'll just be like the whole platform will start wobbling. And as you go through these cycles, eventually it becomes, oh, the second I touch the jelly, it becomes a sine wave and vibrates to death. And I don't even know how to function in this. This isn't a level anymore.
Yeah, so you basically need to let it push you through the door through like glitching through the level.
Yes, there's a lot of like, oh, I've got to try to glitch through the wall, and there's sometimes that's very satisfying as you actually manage to glitch through the wall. But there's one specific one of these, which is the last one in one of the like sine wave cycles. There's a couple more cycles after it, but they're just for some reason not as intense as it like slows down again. But there's one specific room that took me about 10 minutes, and the door's in the air. The only way to get to it is to like let the bottom bit glitch through the ceiling above it to get to the door.
Yes, that is the one that I got stuck on both times I played through this game.
and it's impossible.
Yes, it's so hard because I get really close, and then the sine wave would get too strong and throw me off or whatever.
Yeah, so like you'll get there and you'll get up top, but by the time you've glitched through the top of the ceiling, you have all of one bit of movement to jump to the door, and that one bit of movement, because of how fast the world is literally vibrating, if you just hit it, you might just jump it into nothing, just because the world is beyond your perception, and that's the point. This game is meant to be falling apart. Like, it's very good at conveying that. It's a very cool thing, but that one screen is like, oh god, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to finish this game.
Yep. But then, like, after that, there's only like 6 more screens, and then you're done.
Yes, and they're because the last one is there's no jelly.
Yes.
And then, like, you go through all of them, and then, like, the world essentially, like, the corruption comes again, and then you, like, reboot the universe, and everything goes back to normal.
Yeah, you do the thing you did at the beginning, where everything, like, you touch the platforms, they dissolve into colors, where at the beginning they were a bunch of colors that formed into platforms.
Yes. Which is cool. It is it's a cool game.
So, what's interesting to me is we cover this. The last time we've covered a puzzle platformer was back when we did...
Oh, God.
I mean, I guess you could say Framed, but that was more of a narrative experience. I would say back when we did the Swapper, right?
Jesus, has it really been that long? That was our second episode.
Yes. And when I think about that, and I think about the question I asked at the time, which was, like, the ludonarrative dissonance, blah, 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 wank, wank.
It's been a long time. We've been doing this podcast forever.
I look at a game like this, and I enjoyed this game. I played it twice now, because I played it back when it came out. Do you think games like this have a place in podcasts like ours?
Yes.
In what, like, my question is not like, because I think I would say no. Like, I look at what we do when we talk about a game, and I'm like, I don't know what we can bring to that. And if so, what does that speak to, like, our format or the format of podcasts and criticism in the face of games like this that just aren't about that sort of stuff that we normally talk about?
Well, so there's an errant signal video that is basically this exact crisis, right? I don't know if you've watched it or if you're like, it's where Errant Signal is a guy called Chris Franklin at Campster on Twitter. Everyone calls him Campster. I'm going to call him Campster. So he plays this game called Thoth, where...
Yes, I like Thoth, and I have the same feeling about it. There's nothing to say.
Well, he's like, this is a great game. It feels good. It has done stuff. But there's no, like, themes here. And I guess there are, like, themes. It's like, it's hinting at stuff and using theming as a game would use theming, much like The Floor of Jelly. Like, has a theme and a, like, narrative, quote-unquote, as just a progression of tone as you go through the levels. But regurgitating that in a critical thing and examining it doesn't really, like, mean anything. I'm just saying what this game is to you.
Yes.
The game is a thing you experience and you play, and that is all it is, and that is, like, valid and good, and I can say that's valid and good, but that's what does that mean as a piece of criticism? And that's essentially, you know, a thing that a lot of games cause in people is, like, you can say things about it, but it's not like, you know, when we talk about Final Fantasy X and we talk about it in the context of like JRPGs and what it's saying about the world and religion and all these big ideas. This is just jumping on platforms, and it is incredibly good at jumping on platforms. And I can go to you and turn to you and say, it's very good at jumping on platforms, and that's the end of the conversation. So yeah, I don't know. Like, I think that's just a thing we have to accept that sometimes we're doing. We are explaining a game to people. We are saying this is what it does well, and this is why we like it. I wouldn't say that we should stop talking about whole genres because they don't conform to, like, ideas that can be thematically mined in a very, like, specific context that comes out of, like, literary criticism, just because they don't have, like, big ideas and themes in that sense.
But then what are we doing? Like, I guess my bigger question is, what are we doing here? Like, with this?
Oh, well, I don't know. Like, what are we doing here? We're talking about... We're having a podcast where we talk about video games. Everyone else has a podcast where they talk about video games. Like, it's... If you want to say that's pointless, yes. And that
it's more that if we can't have a conversation about this game past explaining what it is and be like, oh, I liked the jumping in this part, but I didn't like the part where you move the switches. Like, the limits of criticism here are the thing that I'm concerned about. Not that we're wasting our time, whatever. We have a podcast. We will continue to have a podcast past this point. But, like, what are critics doing? Like, what do we bring to video games that are not narrative experiences, right? Like, what does that even look like?
I mean, it looks like us saying, I didn't like this area because it interacted with the mechanics in this way. I thought the water area was good because it felt like a natural extension of the design of the world. Like, we're saying things that are valid and true. It, if anything, it means that critics, like including us, need to get better at expressing just like what design is and how it affects you, I guess, because there's totally of like, you could do a long YouTube video on this game and how this game is good design, capital letters. You could do a great video. You could do a long video explaining that. I don't know how valid and whether it needs to exist, but like the way it introduces its mechanics is very seamless, and I can break down that, this level where you fall into the pit first, but then you realize you need to jump on the stuff in order to get across the ledge. All these things are introduced in a very specific order, and it communicates them to you in very specific and clear ways, and here's how it does that. We could break that down in like a lectured sense. It's not like these are games that I feel like it's wrong to say these are games we can't say anything about, because we can. We're just better at saying certain things about certain games, which is like, one of our own limits, I guess. I don't know. I don't share this existential crisis, I guess. I don't even think it's an existential crisis per se, because I'm not particularly troubled about it. My answer is we normally don't cover these games. We picked it because it was short and we're on a deadline. Yes.
We're not a platformer podcast, because what do you say about platformers? Like, tell me what your thematic takeaway is from playing every Mario, Jackson. Oh, sometimes the jumping is good, sometimes it's not so good. Like, there's some games are just like tactile experiences, and that's fine. I just wonder about like video game criticism as like a medium that people can have like jobs and lives in, like how useful it is when it can't even touch some games because of their like physical realities.
But it can. We can have like a 10-minute debate about auto-scrollers right now. I don't know, like there are things in these games that everyone knows about that like people have opinions on and is affected by its design that we can totally talk about. I don't think it's that impossible, I guess.
Okay.
Also, I realized that the actual last puzzle platform we talked about is Inside.
Oh, right. We totally did cover Inside.
Which
I forgot
is
about that.
one of these games, has a lot of, I guess, has more like
it also has a story and like ideas and themes about itself in a more concrete way.
In a more concrete way, but only in so much that like it obfuscates itself. I don't know. Like I went back
because there's entirely like the room in which that father, like that parent and child, are going to buy one of the worm slaves, right? Like there are narratives in that game.
There are narratives in that game, but like, so I was watching some like videos of Inside this week, and just the like way that game was received is a million theories about, are you the is the child the player controlled by the slug, by the blob, and it in a sense almost prevents a lot of the like discussion around that game from engaging with what the game is. So I don't like, that's the same question from another angle. Like, is it easier to talk about what Inside is and what it does because it has a lot of stuff there? Does that make it harder to talk about in a sense because it's like a bunch of like puzzles that you can get hung up on that the game isn't actually about? The game's like about its tone and its moment to moment play, but a lot of like the audience reaction is, what's the secret truth that we can decode here? Is that like a more valid piece of like art to talk about just because it has a bunch of stuff on top?
It might not be more valid art, but it lends itself more to like criticism as we understand it in 2018, right?
And I don't think that says, like, I think that says more bad things about criticism.
The thing I am saying here is that criticism is a problem, not that video games are bad.
Yes, no,
video games can be bad in entirely own ways that are not realm of this discussion. I'm specifically asking about, when I look at this game, I'm like, well, what do we even talk about when we talk about Flora's Jelly in the context of what is the limits of our ability, and our is like broader than just you and me, and our ability as a culture to talk about these style of games.
I think we do the best that we can, I guess.
Yeah.
I know that,
shout out to our friend Omar, who's basically the person who I think of as being on point to talk about these type of games all the time.
Like, I think I don't know. I guess you're right, because like when I think about this game, like it's very pleasant. It looks good. You look at it and you go, this looks good. When you jump on a thing, you go, this feels good to jump on, and you're like, that was a good time to have. But I can't write. It's not writing an essay saying that doesn't. It's not like a full thing, right? It's just a fact of what it is, and it's very good at being that.
Yeah.
well, yeah, I don't know. I guess I just take this as a tension of what criticism is, right? It is trying to communicate things about works. And sometimes that is like the frameworks for that are in place for certain works and like lend themselves to certain types of things that more than it does to other types of things. Which often ends up like making those things seem more legitimate as like art, even though that's not actually how anything works. And it's definitely something to be aware of. I want to stress that I had no idea this is what we were going to be talking about.
No. And I didn't really until we were talking about it. So I didn't have like a plan to bring this up.
Because I was like, oh, okay, we're doing this.
We are talking about this, and I was like, this is the thing I actually am thinking about now that we're talking about. Like, this is not a planned conversation.
Yes, no, it was entirely unplanned. And I haven't watched that video, that Camp's video on Thoth in ages, but that is the thing I was thinking about, because it's basically the exact same questions, and it's just a tension that I think we have to accept isn't going to be resolved by us ever. It's just a thing we have to deal with.
But when I think about like what I want to do as someone who wants to always better my criticism, like when we touch on games like this and I come across like the limits of what I think I can talk about, I'm like, what's the next step? How do you get better at this?
You play a lot of them, you read a lot about them, and I think if we wanted to do like an entire puzzle platformer episode and focus on like the differences between these games and how they like...
we'd have a lot to say, but that's because of the volume, right?
But that's what I mean. Like, the volume is... When I have a lot to say about like a narrative game that says things about stuff, that's only because I have like the context of a million other works of art and books and movies that are also about these ideas.
That's a valid point I had not considered. Fair enough.
We can talk about these things because they like are a collective idea, right? Like, yes. Puzzle platformers are a whole genre. I was thinking about this game in the context of like, this is like if Super Meat Boy wasn't fucking up itself about being difficult. Because of like, it's a very similar, like it's got a lot of the single screen stuff. It's harkening back to like a lot of, it's not invoking retro aesthetics in the same way, but it is invoking that kind of design sensibility without being like, this is what this game's about. Super Meat Boy is, it feels ancient now, and not in the way that like actual old games feel ancient, but in the way that arcade games, Xbox Live arcade games from 2010 do.
But I also think the general feel of Super Meat Boy, for example, is like much more irreverent about itself than this game is.
No, this game is very sincere. It just wants you to enjoy the pleasant like atmosphere and then feel like very tense as the game starts to fall apart.
I don't know. I think this game goes from sincerity to ponderousness at times about like just being one of these style of games.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a point where you touch the fez ball and then the game turns into like a broken TV screen, right? Like there's a certain amount of like, oh, we are subverting the soft aesthetic of this game to put technology in it. Isn't that crazy? Which is the same reason like I fucking hate fez, right?
Mm-hmm. And that's why that is my least favorite stuff aesthetically in the game. Like I just preferred when it was just one of these games, but then we would have less to talk about.
Yes.
It would just be this. Like that is the level of like that is the thing it puts in the game. That is the like commentary it makes and the design decision it makes, and that is what we are talking about. Otherwise, it would literally just be a series of pleasant screens and puzzles that you solve.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that's how I fall down in it. That if we want to get good at talking about this genre, we can. And I don't think we're bad at it. I just think it's on us to like have more points of reference and context and approach that.
I've played a lot of puzzle platformers. I have a lot of opinions about them.
What is your opinion on puzzle platformers? What makes a good puzzle platformer?
Fuck, don't make them anymore. That's my answer.
Well, there you go. That's why this is causing this, because you're tired of this.
Also, this game is a light puzzle, high platformer.
Yes, but the puzzle bits were the bits that I hated. So
yes.
Like, I think of it as a puzzle platformer because, much like in puzzle platformers, I jump around and then I have to flick 6 switches and I'm going, fuck this.
Like, if we get to, like, my actual, like, problem here is I think, like, when I look at this game, it's like, we can critique it on the spectrum puzzle platformers. The thing that I'm most, like, disappointed by playing this game is it doesn't have enough interaction points in the way that a game like Hohokum does, where sometimes you can run along the ground and, like, the trees will sprout later in the game, and sometimes there's some fish that follow you around, and that's it. The game needs more like soft, non-concrete interaction points to like bring the world to life and make the cuteness of the design like breathe and live as a thing you're like actually having impact on, more than it is just kind of like some still platforms hanging in space that you bounce off of. Like for a game that purports to like be lively in its animations and often does that, there is not enough living things in the like framework of the game to make that worthwhile to me.
Like it's essentially just doing some jumps on top of extremely pleasant screensavers.
Yeah, I just want more of the soft interactions, right? Like cool things happening in the background, something cute to interact with, like something beautiful, like things that just can exist in the background and maybe you like look at them and interact with them and there's like a one-off thing and then you move on and it doesn't actually matter. But those things do matter in aggregate when it comes to games like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I definitely like it. It doesn't feel like a living world. It feels like a series of levels with different pleasant tones. It's not like, you know, I would have
this is a student game, so I get it, but
yes, no,
like
this is a great game for like the context of
yes. 2014 was a different time, but there's a huge rise of like art games that are specifically meant to be more art toy than they are a video game you play and complete, and this game feels like a early gesture towards that in a way that I wish it was just more of that.
Like if this idea was approached like made today, just because of how this kind of stuff has changed since 2014 or even 2012, considering like it was, you know, how long this game took to come to fruition, and just how hugely everything about this entire scene has shifted since then.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I would be curious like as to what this would be today, because like I don't know, like these kind of platformers were everywhere for a while and now they're not.
I mean, they're coming back.
Sure, but in a different way. I don't know.
Like Celeste happened.
Celeste did happen. I need to play Celeste to actually see what it is, because I know there's more story in that and more like, you know, stuff.
I mean, many of the people who like Celeste have nothing to say about its story. Like, we both listened to Chris Streamo, and I watched his stream of that game. He skips every single cutscene.
Sure, but I'm not going to. I
and
need to know
also,
what that game
every time
is.
someone talks about that game, because I do the bad thing where I watch YouTube men talk about the best Wii or Switch games because I want to. No one else is reviewing Switch games every week. Sorry, someone else should do that work.
We should get into that racket.
Don't have the money for it.
Oh, right, that's true.
Every time they're like, oh, this game speaks to me because it's about a girl dealing with depression, and the mountain is her depression. She has to scale the mountain to scale her depression. I have depression. I relate to this. And then they show the screenshots of the game being that game, and I'm like, oh no, nothing has changed. This is terrible.
This is exactly because there was an episode of Idle Thumbs. I forget what the game was. I don't know if you can remember the game, but we had a discussion about a game that was mentioned on that was essentially I think it was a platformer, could have been some other genre, but it was a game that purported to be about depression, capital A, capital D. But it was essentially just a platformer / other type of game with a couple of cutscenes before each level. And we discussed...
it's that weird sliding screen, that guy with the flowers game. I don't remember the name of it though.
Right, shit. What's it called? God, this sucks. This is bad podcasting.
Whatever. It's a free podcast. Patreon.com/enrollment.
Pay us to fact check. But we're essentially discussing as to like, is that a valid kind of way of like marketing / like selling your? Can you sell your game as being about something if it's essentially a series of disconnected like bits of monologue about an idea while you then do some unrelated puzzles? Because that's an entire genre of, you know, video game from about 2010 to 2014. That was a big thing. Maybe it went away, but if Celeste is just that again. And I don't know. I didn't realize that the mountain was her depression.
Yeah, I don't know. I tried to look up this game. I could not find it on short notice, so I don't know. If you were around the game scene back then, you know exactly what game we're talking about.
The slide. I'm gonna look this up. I'm gonna have to look this up afterwards and find out what it is, and like Microsoft Sam the name into this episode.
Okay.
But yeah,
because everyone's like, "Oh, do you mean Aversion?" And I'm like, "No, I don't mean Aversion. That's a different game."
Everyone knows Aversion. Takes me back.
Yeah. I'm still looking for this because I'm an idiot.
All right. Well, I guess that we've made enough of a pause that it doesn't, you know. Well, so what's the game? What is the game that you know about it? Tell me the things that you know.
There's a man, I think he's wearing a hat. There's flowers. It's about his wife being dead or him being divorced, something like that. It's a platformer.
Okay, well, we tried to find the name of the game, and we can't. So maybe I went Microsoft Summit, and maybe this is just lost to time. The history of video games is impossible.
The secret is a lot of games from way back when are impossible to talk about anymore because they just don't exist.
Yeah. Unless you know the exact name of them, and like it's God, games are hard to find. This game isn't even that old. This is from this decade.
Yeah, but a lot of those games are Flash games that disappeared, right?
Yeah, it's a whole.
Oh, I might have it. We got it. We were still looking. It is called The Company of Myself. You can find it on congregate.com.
It is called The Company of Myself.
Yes.
This is the most one of these games that has ever been made.
Yes, it didn't. It does not have the sliding screens. That was me mistaking it for that other PlayStation Mini flower loving game, whatever.
Yes, so this game is essentially a series of screens of platforming puzzles that, like, across the screens are also written like "I have depression."
Yes.
Like it's not to dunk on this game too much because I haven't played it, but it definitely like reads as if I cherry picked the right screenshots, you would think this is like a parody of this era of games. It is so earnestly that. And I remember if you search The Company of Myself, Idle Thumbs, you will hear Chris Remo talking about it. And like had this discussion back in whenever this game came out. And we find what episode that would be. Episode 182.
Great.
I think.
I've been playing games for too fucking long, Jackson.
But yeah, so that's like I guess if Celeste is just obviously more produced with a more bigger story.
Yes.
But
and the platforming looks legitimately cool.
Yes, like it looks like a game that is a very like fun and enjoyable to play just as a video game. But that aesthetic of we put meaningful things on top of the platforming has not gone away.
Yeah, no, and it's bad. I'm not here for that. I admit, but the puzzle platformer exists entirely in those style of games, and even games like Inside, which is a game that we both really liked, is one of those games, right?
Yeah. But we're not saying that like the games are bad. Like obviously, we look at The Company of Myself and think this doesn't seem very good, but like the Forest Jelly doesn't purport to be about
Yeah, no, but these are the two modes. Either you are just a platformer and you're like, well, that was just a platformer because it's not made by Nintendo. Or it's one of these games, you're like, oh, I really wish it was just a platformer. In which case you would just dismiss it out of hand.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's essentially like the problem of we have a mode of criticism that has just come from people who have read books / more likely watched films and have applied that to video games or the other way is like the other version is like hard design analysis and like is this good design and stuff, and that's like its own criticism with its own huge form of problems that we're like trying to push against. It's a tension we've all got to navigate, I guess. I don't know. Nothing has changed. We are still in the same boat. We still have the same problems and have to deal with them.
We always complain about the cycle of game criticism, but maybe we are the cycle of game criticism.
Well, yeah, no, we complain about it knowing that we're all complicit in it, right? Like we just make it happen.
Yeah. We don't have any answers. Maybe I should play Celeste is my answer, I guess.
Yeah, but it's too fucking expensive.
I have some eShop credit. I could spend. I have some gold coins to redeem.
I could just get it on Steam, but I want to play it on Switch.
Yeah. But I'll probably also hate it. Like, I don't know.
I expect it. I mean, maybe I'll find it.
I expect to hate it. I don't know. That's just me.
But I don't know if that's because of the game and the theming or just because you're too good at platformers.
The thing is, while I might be good at platformers, I don't like a lot of platformers.
Because you're too good at them. Because you want a very specific thing.
No, because like I'm playing Kirby Triple Deluxe right now, and that game is like the easiest baby game for babies. I'm having a great time though.
Yes, when I said a very specific thing, I meant Nintendo.
Oh yeah, I mean I want cute platformers. It doesn't necessarily have to be Nintendo. They're just the only one who's actually doing it. Everyone else has to make their game funny for gamers, and it ruins any cuteness it might have.
Oh, that's true. I'm banning indie games from being funny. What was the recent game I played that was like too funny?
All of them?
I was playing It'll Do the other day, and I don't like that game very much. I think it's fine. It relies too much on like Switch puzzles because it turns out when you don't have the money to like iterate on making like really interesting Zelda dungeon puzzles, you just have a lot of pushing and pulling blocks in infuriatingly boring ways.
So which is the exact same Yono and the Celestial Elephants did, but their puzzles were easy, so I didn't mind it very much.
Yeah, so I'm like the game's fine. It's like it's cute, and it's fine to light torches and stuff. The puzzles aren't very interesting just because of the like it takes a lot of work and scale to make those puzzles detailed. But the actual like thing that was most frustrating about it, and not in a this is just a reality of the game way, is that every single thing was like, oh, I'm a self-referential joke for gamers. I'm gonna be like, oh, I'm over there to the Island of Adventure. I bet there's adventure in there. I've got a piece of paper that the heart thing's on. I'm just this. These are my jokes. And it was just like, oh, please stop this. And it's like it's fine in that game. It doesn't make the game bad. But in aggregate, when basically every big indie game of the last 5 years, it is very hard to find one that doesn't have this kind of like sarcastic referential tone.
Yep.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm banning jokes for a few years. Everyone's got to go without jokes for a while. We just got to try our best. No jokes.
Yeah, no more jokes. Scarlet Witch picture, make it happen.
Yeah, no more jokes. There is a picture I put up of Vostok Inc. that I was playing a few months ago that literally just had a quote from the guy in the game saying, "Lolly lule lo, wait, wrong game." That was the joke.
Yeah, they're bad. These are bad. People who make video games, guess what? Bad at comedy. Not trained comedians, not even like trained bad comedians, just bad at comedy.
It's a shame. I like it when there's an actual funny game. You're like, shit, right, being funny. It's a nice thing.
Yeah, being funny is like a difficult skill most people don't have, though, right? Because it's a thing you have to cultivate and work at.
Mm-hmm. It's hard. Yeah, no, it's hard. And I like it when it does happen.
Yep.
Do we have any more takes? We've kind of
no. This is gone in directions I could not have imagined. I think we're fine.
No,
we can return to the future recording that bookended this show.
Some would say the floor of this discussion.
No.
So it's been a month. Have you figured out how games criticism should work?
In fact, given the fact that I'm playing God of War for review now, or not review, but for critique,
you are playing that game for review. You are essentially playing that game for review.
I could not tell. I mean, the thing I write will not be a review, probably.
No,
but
you bought that game, have been paid to produce a piece about it. You're playing it for review.
Yeah, I don't know. The fact that this is a question just shows how well we have figured out how games criticism should work in the intervening months.
Yeah, no, I realized what our segment was and realized that you were in the middle of playing God of War and hating your entire existence.
What if we just stopped playing video games forever? I'd be so much happier.
I'm a week from being able to play video games again. I have like 3 series that I love that I'm going to go through. It's going to be great for me. Like, I've got Zelda games to play. I'm going to play the Castlevanias. I'm going to play the Yakuza's. I want to play some Ratchet and Clank because I've never really played that. Every whole realm of possibilities. You should go, do something. You've already played the good video games.
I downloaded Bejeweled Stars, I think it's called, last night.
Heartbreak.
Which is like the new Bejeweled game, but it's got like levels, like boards you specifically clear and move on to the next board. It is Bejeweled, obviously, which is great, but every time you clear a board, it does like Peggle-esque religious music about how good you are for clearing this board that took you 45 seconds to clear. It's ridiculous. PopCap are never not on their bullshit.
Wait, you mean like it's equivalent of Ode to Joy, or that it literally has lyrics saying "You've done great"?
No, it's like just like a choral chanting. It almost sounds like they're going Jesus. It's
That's how I feel when
ludicrous.
I
It is a heavenly bullshit, and it's absurd to put that in a Bejeweled game.
I expected you to give me some like heartbreaking, microtransaction garbage for Bejeweled.
Well, so you can also buy or craft keys to open chests that get you emojis that you can use in the in-game chat system.
Imagine just like you're staring at Bejeweled. You're like a businessman. You're like staring Bejeweled in the face like a tiger, thinking, "What can I monetize here?" Is there even anything that can be? And obviously, like the actual answer is all the Blitz stuff they figured out with Bejeweled Blitz, which you hate on a fundamental level. Is like morally objectionable.
So this also has all of that stuff, but you have to craft it out of pieces you acquire by playing the boards.
Okay, so it's just been abstracted out a level.
Yes, and you don't need any of it because it's just Bejeweled. Like, I'm decent enough at Bejeweled. So far in the 3 worlds I've played through, I have not needed any of it. But
well, I've played some Bejeweled Blitz in my time, and the boosts you get that you can pay for definitely help out a lot.
Yep.
But I know you would never touch anything other than pure Bejeweled.
I mean, I'm playing this game, so I fucking ruined that already.
I guess you already did.
Before that, I would swear about Bejeweled 3 up and down.
It's very calming.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, no, it's not. It's calming right up to the point where it's like the most stressful game ever made.
Yeah, it is. We've got some questions.
We do. If people want to send us questions, where would they do that?
They would send them to podcast@abnormalmapping.com. Just put, you can put a normal mapping in the subject. If it's about video games, we'll figure out where it's going to go. We don't get so many emails that it's a problem. So please just send us an email and we will read them on the show.
Before you read emails, Jackson, I have one Twitter question I got.
Oh, go ahead. I've only got the email ones right here.
Yes. So this is from Kara. She asks, are we ever going to end up using a better classification system for games than our current genre system? The answer is no.
No.
What I would recommend you do, like if you're sorting your like Steam library, which I do, create your own genres. Just live your life. Know what your like predilections are and create your own genre.
I mean, the problem for this it's been getting worse as every game becomes the same game above a certain like budget.
Yep.
And there's obvious genres like these are the roguelikes, but that just means has permadeath and a run-based system now. That doesn't like actually mean that much.
Yeah.
The classifications are always kind of bad and wishy-washy. I wouldn't worry about it too much. It's fine. Because, like, what does action-adventure game mean anyway? It's fucking meaningless.
Zelda is what it means.
I know what it means. But do action-adventure games exist anymore?
Zelda?
Aside from Nintendo. Like, Mario is a platform.
I mean, arguably God of War is one of these.
That's my
playing
point.
It right now.
But I don't know. I feel like when I started caring about games, that brought with it some kind of implication about the tone. And God of War definitely has a much more serious tone. So I don't know, like these things have different implications for everyone and they're wishy-washy and meaningless and I don't think
genreing video games implies tone really, because they're all mechanical descriptors.
Yeah, no, they are, but just I always assumed that because action adventure meant like Zelda, it would always have like a slightly more adventurous, happier
I don't know, like Papo EO is a platformer. It is not like Mario in tone.
That is true. Yes, I literally only meant for those words, me growing up. I didn't mean every genre has like a tonal description.
Okay, fair enough.
Because yes, if you jump on things, it's a platformer.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, it'll never get better. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it.
Oh, that's the reaction to all video games these days. It'll never get better. Don't worry about it.
That's not what I meant. I meant you turned that back on me very well.
I didn't turn it back on you. I think that's where I'm at with video games.
Well, you're the one playing God of War.
I mean, you will be.
Yeah, but I look at video games as like this amazing, hopeful, beautiful thing as I am trapped fucking writing thousands of words about, a fake TV show that I made up that sucks.
That's fair. I'm like, what if I wrote about a fake TV show that I made up instead of ever playing a video game again?
To be fair, the fake TV show that I made up that sucks, I made it up and it sucks, but it's also pretty good.
Okay.
Right. Let's go through these questions. Shall I just read these out?
Yeah, go from the bottom up.
Go from the bottom up. Okay, so our first is from Gus Bremer, which reads, Hey, Emma Jackson, I was curious as to your thoughts and expectations on Nintendo Labo, since it seems very interesting, but in typical Nintendo fashion, very different from most other video game stuff. Cheers, Gus. YouTube annotation link, your faves would never .fyi, because...
Yeah, so we talked about it for quite some time.
You've talked about it extensively already.
Yes, I've enjoyed my time with the Variety Pack, which is what we bought. It's probably too expensive for video game people, but it doesn't seem particularly that expensive compared to like edutainment toys for kids, because they're very fucking expensive. Oh my god. You could just build Gunpla. That's cheaper for sure. But I don't know. I hope they make more. And I hope they're more like the variety pack and less like the robot, is my general takeaway.
Yeah, it seems very cool. I don't like have any interest in it. I'll just go build some actual Gunpla. Because I'm like, there are things I would want to do in terms of building stuff, but I don't really care about Labo.
Is there a Labo set that you would actually get if they made it?
I've no idea. Like, conceptually, I've no idea. Like, if the fishing rod one was like 20 pounds on its own, I might get that. Like, it was just a standalone.
I wonder if maybe they would end up doing that where they sell individual kits, like the most popular ones as they like expand out, and then you get the comes with like a redemption code for that just piece of software on the eShop or whatever.
Yeah, because the fishing rod one seems really cool. So ideas that don't exist yet, I've got no idea. I don't really care. It's just, like, I'm not the target audience for this. And if there are stuff I want to build, there's like other directions I will go to get that fix.
Fair enough.
So it seems cool. The one thing I do think it's the one thing I have taken away from it, from what you've said and from the things I've seen, is that I really want other companies to be so fucking insanely rich that they can lavishly produce what is essentially an instruction booklet to this level of detail. Like, oh,
it's incredible.
Like, the software is just, here's how you build the thing and then a small game, but the like amount of detail and polish that Nintendo has put into like the way the instruction booklet part works is like just a level of showing off about how rich they are. It's ridiculous. Like, it's got an entire dynamic music soundtrack in the way that a lot of Nintendo games have that like fades away as you're building and then comes back up as you like click the next instruction. It's, you can rewind, you can look at any of the instructions in certain ways, all presented.
Yes, also while like those instructions are entirely 3D models that you can like zoom in and rotate around.
Yeah, it's not video, it's incredibly like detailed, and it's like what I would love to be the standard of like any virtual instruction booklet, but obviously it will never be, because why would anyone make something this ridiculous for what is essentially a list of numbers and pictures?
Yeah.
So that's been my takeaway from Labo. It's just a thing that I've been slightly exposed to.
Yep.
All right. Next, we have an email from Nora Blake. Hello there. I've only very recently started listening to you after a recommendation from my friend Alison, and I wanted to say I'm enjoying it so far. Thank you very much. Everyone, if they're enjoying it, should email and tell us. We love validation. We crave validation.
Yes. Also, please be a good listener like Alison and tell one of your friends to listen to our shows. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please do. I guess you could review us on iTunes. We have never asked for that because we
I don't really care. But if you like, what I actually really would like is for you to tell a friend about one of our like podcasts and listen to it.
Yeah.
Because we don't really we plug as much as we can, but it's hard. Like, growing an audience is very difficult. I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, I don't know either. The only question I have is, considering the black and red color themes, tragic backstory, hidden evil powers, evil scientist antagonists, and dead girlfriends, how do I cope with the revelation that Vincent Valentine and Shadow the Hedgehog are basically exactly the same character? Cheers, Nora Blake.
So the difference is that Vincent Valentine got like nice guyed by a lady and went into a coffin for like 30 years, and Shadow the Hedgehog is like, maybe I shouldn't be a monster, and like ground down a rail and like did a kickflip or something. Like, Shadow the Hedgehog's cool and Vincent
Shadow
sucks.
The Hedgehog. Yes, this is the key difference is that while they are both like very extreme early 2000s / late 90s characters that play to a similar type and seem superficially similar, Shadow is good. This is the no mapping take. Shadow is good. Vincent's kind of lame. We didn't even like Vincent when we played FF7. Like, I remember feeling like,
no, I think Vincent's like a fucking tool, and his like air of like, I need to be like, he's clearly meant to be the cool character that all the goth kids relate to, and thus I hate him. He's so boring.
Well, like, I came to FF7 with like a lot of baggage from just culture, so some things worked out for the better, in that I expected Cloud to be like a cool hero with a sword, and he's an idiot dork who sucks. So I like Cloud a lot. But Vincent was like portrayed as really cool and like, just was art everywhere, and I had seen Advent Children before, and he's like all over that, just moping, and he's just like, I'm in this coffin because it's some girl, I guess. I'm like, yeah. Vincent, you suck. Bring back Shadow.
Shadow the Hedgehog or Shadow the Ninja? I didn't know what you meant in this context.
I definitely meant Shadow the Hedgehog, because that's what we were talking about. Why would I be talking about Shadow the Ninja?
Well, you said bring back Shadow as if like bring back the good, cool manufactured Final Fantasy
Yes,
character,
no,
which
I
is Shadow the
understand
Ninja.
how you made that leap, but we're not talking about. All right.
Well, because I thought you meant what if you open that coffin and like Shadow the Ninja was there, but then you wanted it to be you open that coffin and Shadow the Hedgehog is there, and I'll play that game, but Square's not going to make that game.
Oh, you mean Cloud hanging out with Sonic? God, Cloud hanging out with Sonic would be perfect.
I mean, Smash Brothers for Wii U.
Shit! Phoenix Down! There's already a game in all this! Oh, I'm so heartbroken that they took Snake out of that game because I want the codec about Cloud.
Yes, 100%. I want the codec about Cloud. I absolutely do not want the codec about Bayonetta ever.
Oh, no, you could! Oh, it depends who writes it. You could.
No, you know it'll be bad. You know it'll be the fucking worst.
No, because there are moments that the Smash Brothers codec could have gone real bad, and they generally don't.
Are they Campbell or Otacon? I don't remember.
They switch. It switches between.
Okay.
There's Campbell, there's Otacon, and Mei Ling.
Because Otacon's going to be like, oh, she's got that librarian look, and it's going to be the fucking worst.
Don't have Otacon. Oh, God, I don't want to even think about Otacon and Bayonetta and to say, oh, you've ruined everything. I can't believe you've done this.
Eat shit, Jackson.
No. Hoist it again. Right. Let's get through these questions. Next question is from Alison Graham. Is that the same Alison? I don't know surnames. So there we go.
Yep.
Hi, y'all. Question 1. This is 2 questions. 2 short questions. What will video games be like in the year the Great Gundam project ends, assuming no more Gundam is made between then and now?
They announced a new Gundam series this week, and there's like leaked documents about like 2 others, so there will be more Gundam made between then and now.
Well, I'm going to the spreadsheet now. We'll see if Sam, who is the person who manages the spreadsheet, is a friend of ours who was like, I'm going to make you a spreadsheet to help you, but it's actually your own personal hell. They have already added narrative to the list.
Good. Is narrative a movie or is it a series? I think it's a movie, right?
They have not put the details in because they don't know the length of it yet, but it is ready on the list for details to be filled out. Thank you so much, Sam.
Good.
But as
there's
it stands,
a Gundam called the Gundam Narrative. That's its name. It's fucking amazing. Yeah. Oh, it's good. So as it stands, we will have finished our final episode of if we continue at the pace of 2 a week, Sam has helpfully paced out the movies with an equivalent pace as well, and OVAs. We'll be done on the 5th of April, 2026. Will Final Fantasy VII Remake be out? Like all of it?
Like all of it. Like, will it be done?
No.
Well,
No.
fucking reboot of Evangelion of games. It's gonna
I think 2 parts of it will be out, and then they will not continue making it.
Oh. They have to finish it.
No, they don't.
I guess they don't.
Xeno Saga.
Oh, if we get an equivalent that is just like the entire final act of Final Fantasy VII done in 2 hours of a modern video game,
Yes, please. Oh my god.
I need it. I'd crave it. Just fucking...
Well, you know what that means? That means that you skydive into Midgar and fight Sephiroth there, and that's a way better game than actual Final Fantasy VII.
Oh, you don't have... So, you mean no one fucks on a rock?
Yeah, okay. Well, you're going to miss fucking on a rock, which is sad. Maybe you can unlock that or something beforehand.
You just move. They just fucking a rock before they attack Midgar.
Yeah, of course.
You know, you can rewrite that. Yeah, I guess you could streamline the back half of that game to happen very quickly. I've seen 2.2.
You go to fight Hojo, and then Sephiroth just comes down and like cuts him in half, and it's like, you fight me now.
I don't even remember what you're doing at the end of that game. Like, there's some, like, he's unlocking, Genova and everything.
He's in the center of the planet because when Meteor hits, it's going to damage the planet enough that the life stream is going to swell up, and it's going to give him enough power to make him a god.
I remember the plan, but I don't remember why that... Like, I can't think of any reason why you couldn't, with, like, a couple of lines, change that to him being in Midgar.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
So, yeah. Because
Midgar could just be, like, the top of the Shinra Tower could just be the tallest point in all of the planet, and he could go there to, like, meet the meteor like it's the Nexus in Generations.
It'd just be... So, 1, that's amazing. 2, it'd just be that cutscene from Crisis Core.
Yes.
Which is cool as hell.
Yes.
Okay, so aside from Final Fantasy Remake, what about video games will have changed and stayed the same by 2026? Will
Fucking
there
nothing.
be video games?
There will be video games. They will be the exact same.
Or will it have burned down?
What were video games like 8 years ago, Jackson? Were they any different than now?
Well, no, but 8 years before that, they were different. Like, 2010 is when I think of as video games kind of crystallized into just being this forever.
I think it's just going to be this forever.
Just the big games are going to get bigger and fewer and more identical.
Yeah, and then the mid-tier games will be like the games now, like a little cheaper, and the small games will be the small games, but nothing's going to change.
Yeah.
Graphics cards will still be too expensive.
What will the next Nintendo console be?
Fucking one of these again.
Just another Switch? They can't do another Switch.
Yes, they can.
They can do another Switch, but it would have to be
like it's gonna be like a good whack of time, but they could just do another one.
Sure, but I think if they do one that is the same concept, they would have to make everything from the Switch still work.
I mean, you could probably make that happen. Like, it just runs off of a Teeter chip, right? Like,
yeah,
the architecture probably is not going to change that much.
I think if it's just because the rate of this growth has been slowing down, that in about 7 years, Nintendo could put out a fucking Switch 2 to the level of the PS4, right?
Yeah.
They don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to change.
People buy new iPads. You never need a new iPad until your iPad breaks. Like, whatever. Fuck off. They can make new Switches all they want.
They put all this technology in it, and all I use it for is to read comics.
Yeah.
The only thing the iPad's good for.
Yeah. Watching Star Trek, reading comics.
Correct. No, it is right, because it's for free.
Yep.
Yes, nothing's going to fucking change. And two, the Kotaku piece about the PS5 rumors has me thinking about the future and wondering, will this medium ever get better at archiving its own history in accessible ways? Will kids in 2038 have any way to play games in 2018 easily? Or will they have to look at sketchy emulation sites and hope the corporate overlords didn't take the ROMs down? Thanks, Ali. This is a bigger discussion. No, stopping you. This is the bigger discussion because we've been talking, we have had like a philosophical divide about
I wasn't even going to bring that up, honestly.
Okay.
I was just going to answer this because that's more about like my personal philosophy about the world these days and less about the answering this question.
Okay, well, fair enough. Well, the bigger discussion is one I'm sure we'll have in another episode down the line, but it is like a full episode to talk.
Sketchy emulation sites and torrents of all the GBA ROMs are the easy ways to archive games. It already exists. That's them. You're looking at it.
Yeah, the Switch will never put a virtual console on it. You will never be able to play all Nintendo games, and people will just emulate games or not.
You will be able to play like 6 of them when you pay for their online service when it finally launches, but that's it.
Yeah, but they'll be like NES games. Will, within the next 4 years, will you be able to play Link to the Past on a Switch?
No, because they can't put multiplayer in it.
For Joy-Con Adventure.
Oh, I would not be surprised if they put Four Swords Adventures back out, but not Link to the Past.
But not Link to the Past! That'd be incredible. But yeah. I think there'll be less... I think there'll be even less official emulation and backwards compatibility. Unless fortunes turn around for Microsoft on the strength of this alone, I think Sony will continue to be fucking, we don't give a shit Sony for as long as they will be allowed to have that hubris.
I can see the PS5 playing PS4 games. I think that makes sense to me.
PS4 games, yes. So, I mean,
Well, this is the question. No, what they're going to do next generation is they're going to turn off the PS3 and fucking be free again.
Well, so, like, if we assume that everything from the PS4 onwards is basically always going to be around in some level, not with the servers will go down, but for the most part, the PS5 will be assumed to work with the PS4, right?
Yeah.
But then it really is just like maybe the PS3 era and before that gets lost.
Yeah. And to like be more general, video games are much better about archiving their early history than any other medium has ever been.
Well, it's because we have, like, for as much as the industry doesn't care, and industries in general have never cared, we have grown up with, torrents of GBA ROMs. Like, early films could not torrent early films.
Yeah. We used Nesticle back in the day.
Did you?
Yeah, I use Nesticle all the time.
Yeah, do you anymore?
No, absolutely not. There are better emulators out there.
Nesticle continue to be updated?
I don't think so, no. There's no bleeding nutsack on my computer anymore.
Oh, right, Nesticle. I always forget that that's an awful pun, because the 90s.
Yes. Yep.
But yeah, I don't know if people... I don't know. The problem is, like, so many games of this era specifically, like, between 2012 and today, most of them have some kind of connected service that's kind of crucial.
Yeah.
And that's gone.
Yeah. I mean, but like archiving also is like things on YouTube. Like I'm more worried about YouTube going away than I am video game servers going down.
If YouTube could I'm waiting for at some point YouTube to go, there's too much of this, we're cutting back everything with below a certain number of views before 2015. They could totally do that on on any given day.
And all of culture will go away when that happens.
Yeah, no. And not only can they do that, but they will do that, and it is inevitable that it will have to happen one day, because YouTube is just exponentially increasing and also becoming exponentially more dominant as just where the videos go. Mm-hmm. So at some point, yeah, they'll just like a bunch will be lost.
Yep.
It's going to be weird.
Yeah.
But I guess that's mini archive talk for a second there.
Yeah, I mean, enjoy the video games you can. Get old games however you can. Emulation's fine. Don't worry about it. It's not that hard to get emulation as long as you're not looking for Nintendo ROMs, and even then, you can get them. You can get them. Go ahead. Next question.
So next question, speaking of YouTube, is from Issa. And Issa says, how do you feel about watching full playthroughs instead of playing games? I was totally fine with watching a montage of all the cutscenes for a few games, but then I watched a more or less full playthrough of a visual novel for a closure and story and felt quite guilty about it. I didn't want to play through the game, but I might have if the recording didn't exist. This is a question I've been wanting to send to other podcasts for a while, but most of these outlets do full playthroughs themselves, so they might be pretty biased. I mean, we do
full playthroughs. Yes, I do Let's Plays. I don't much anymore, but I have a bunch of games you can watch the full playthroughs of. If you enjoy those games, I always suggest supporting them. Like, buy them on sale if you have the money, or don't if you don't have the money. Like, whatever, who cares? One person's not going to make or break a thing. I watch full playthroughs of games. There are games that we have talked about on podcasts on our network that I have not played through and watched instead on YouTube.
And have not disclosed this in the podcast to the people you're recording with.
Whatever, it doesn't matter. It doesn't change the experience at all, especially for a visual novel. I think watching games is fine. I think it is better to watch the entire playthrough than just watch the cutscenes. Watching the cutscenes takes away the very nature of like the game itself, because games are more than just as cutscenes. And if that's not true, then the game is bad.
Yeah, I feel fine. I feel fine with any of this. I think I am more okay with just watching cutscenes if you have to, depending on what the game is. But
I don't understand just watching cutscenes. Watch the goddamn game. Put it on 2x speed.
There's a lot of games. One that are really. Are you gonna? Someone say they want to play Final Fantasy 13-2. What are you gonna have them do? You're gonna say watch an entire 60 fucking hour playthrough of Final Fantasy 13, all those head-numbingly boring battles, or just watch the cutscenes?
That is inherent to playing that game, though. Like, if you just watch the cutscenes, you might as well just fucking read Wikipedia. Like, that's the same level of engagement than watching someone actually go through it.
I fundamentally disagree with you. I think, by this token, like, your thing that you do, which is turn off all the fucking combat in games and, like, cheat engine shit, is also, I think that's arguing that is a bad thing as well. I think that that's the same argument. If
you want to argue it's compromise, I don't necessarily disagree. I think it's also compromise just watch the movie version of the game with all the cutscenes.
Yeah, but, like, when you're not always watching a game to get, like, a true and full experience of, sometimes you just want to see what happened in the cutscenes, and you don't want to waste your time playing the game.
Put it this way: so we have a spreadsheet of the games that we like play and touch or whatever. Yes. If I only watch the cutscenes, I wouldn't put it in the spreadsheet. If I watch the entire game, I would.
I mean, that's fair. I think it depends on the game, though. It really does. I think if it's a fucking 80-hour RPG and you put the cutscenes in, that's totally valid. I would agree.
I can't think of a single RPG where the part that's good is in the cutscenes.
Well, in the story, you would also have the people talking to each other.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
So a lot. That's my thing. Is a lot of these full movies these days, like, edit the gameplay in to get like a truncated version of what the gameplay is.
I mean, that's what my Final Fantasy 13 playthrough is. I cut out almost all the random encounters after a certain point.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like, okay, so we're gonna put the gameplay in here, but it's not taking up like 70 hours. It's giving you like enough context so you understand what happens. There's some Metal Gear ones that I don't agree with at all. So there's a Metal Gear full movie channel. It's obviously really popular because everyone wants to watch the Metal Gear games cutscenes, because of course they do.
Yeah, why would you want to play Metal Gear Solid 4? It's a fucking terrible game.
Even the cutscene edit is 8 hours.
Yeah.
And one thing that they do...
Return to zero, Jackson.
I know. One thing that they do, this I don't agree with, but I thought was interesting as a decision, is Metal Gear Solid 3, you parachute in, and then you sit down, and there's a very long cutscene, right, as he explains what you're going to be doing on this mission. they edited it in such a way that it keeps showing the gameplay over the codec conversation. So they put the two. They have him go.
I don't hate that actually.
And they time it as well. So it's like the conversation in that scene is he gives you a bunch of details and then the boss shows up and gives you a bunch of, actual thematic important material. So they time it so he gets to the part where Sokolov is editing the gameplay together through the and here's, your cyanide pills in your tooth, blah, blah, blah. And then it cuts to the actual codec for the conversation with the boss. So there's been work in this spaces of trying to turn edits of games into ways to preserve what the game is in shorter time spans. So I don't know. I think it depends on the actual game because yes, I agree. There's definitely some things that you can't.
The answer is clearly highly personalized. I think you shouldn't feel bad for playing that, watching that entire game. If you enjoyed the game and have money to give them, maybe give them some money. But if it's Danganronpa 3 or something, fuck off. Don't give them any of your money. Go buy something else.
Yeah, it's important to be said that as we're having this discussion, there's no moral judgment. It's a video game. It doesn't matter. You can watch it, you can play it, you can do whatever you want. We're just talking about how we would prefer to experience things, but it doesn't. None of this matters really. Just enjoy the thing the way that you want to enjoy the thing. It's fine. If you feel guilty about the money side, that's separate to how you spend your time. Yeah,
I mean, give them the money if you have it, if you want to. If not, don't. Yep. And just try to get over feeling guilty about it. Because the guilt is entirely of manufactured of capitalism being if you did not pay for this or have the full story where you played 100% of the video game, you did not spend your money wisely, or you did something illegal, feel guilty.
Yes.
It's bad and dumb.
It's bad and dumb. All right, 2 more questions.
Yes.
This is from Jasmine, who's Sidemon on Twitter. And she says, "Hey, so one thing's got Hey, so one thing my roommates got me into watching on YouTube lately has been a group that mod GTA 5 to have multiplayer where you're expected to have an in-game life. This has me curious if you know any communities that are built up around a play space outside the norm. I know there was a modding community for Breath of the Wild, but I don't know if multiplayer ever happened. Obviously, that's a bit of a pipe dream of mine. Anyway, I hope this episode has been fun. It's been a fun time. We've had a good time podcasting today. Thank you."
No, it's been miserable. I'm hungry.
Yeah, I'm hungry. I'm really hungry.
Breath of the Wild probably will never have multiplayer for one, would be my guess. But also, I don't like multiplayer games, so I'm the absolute wrong person to ask about any of this.
Well, the answer for the big modded in multiplayer is Just Cause 2, right?
Yeah, but that's not outside the norm. That just enhances the things Just Cause 2 did well, right?
But if we're talking about mods that modded multiplayer into games where there was no
multiplayer. But this was specifically about how does this mods in which specifically the way people play the game is different than how the game is meant to necessarily be experienced. And so if someone modded farming into Just Cause 2, that's what we'd be talking about here.
Yes, but I don't know, I guess the equivalent would be the Star Trek mod of Stellaris, right? If you want to mod, there are whole games that are all about modding the rules of them to play them with other people, it's just house rules. It's just once you get away from video games about 3D spaces with locked multiplayer servers, changing this stuff is a much more normal thing.
Yeah, I think so. A thing I think about is the Bethesda games that had a bunch of mod content then slowly rolled into the actual games, building your own houses and community management stuff.
The entire second large expansion for Skyrim was just a mod that people liked, that they took.
Yes. So yeah, that's all I've got. I'm probably not the person to ask, though. I don't play games with people if I can help it.
No, you don't. We should play some Spy Party, though.
We should play some Spy Party.
Okay, final question here. This is from... I'm sorry, Disco Shark, I'm going to pronounce your name wrong. From Mauricio, yes. The recent Campo Santo news and my probably unfounded fear of that team getting sucked into the Valve policy of never release a game again made me think about how the walking simulator might be my favorite genre of game right now. I really like the way many of those games do their storytelling and the sense of loneliness they have. Don't think I've ever heard you folks talk about walking simulators. Very possible I just missed it. I was wondering how you feel about them. Also talk about the Campo Santo thing if you're so inclined.
So, back when we launched this podcast, the subtitle was The Walking Simulator, a video game podcast.
It sure was. We've been doing this for so long.
Yeah. We love them. I love walking simulators. I wouldn't say they're my favorite genre because I think these days people don't make too many of them, and a lot of them are like there's so many of them that are just like I made a quick Unity thing and I don't really have anything to say other than here's a cool space, which are fine, but I'm not like I don't feel strongly about that anymore. But I enjoyed like the genre itself.
I know there are still.
I would say Firewatch is not actually much of a walking simulator. I think it's much more of an adventure game.
I would agree with that. Because basically that genre evolved and like a lot of people took inspiration from that kind of stuff to the point where it is like less of a, walking simulator thing and more just means game with a first person narrative where you explore spaces usually with no other people present.
Mm-hmm.
Technically,
I don't think I even agree with usually with no other people present.
Yeah, no, because I was like, I guess Virginia fits into this as well, and that's got lots of people present.
Or like Gravity Bone. There's tons of people in Gravity Bone.
Yeah, but Gravity Bone is like before this became a codified thing. This is one of the things that people like. Gravity Bone's when was Gravity Bone?
Yeah, 30 Flights Loving. Like that game came out well into the walking simulator thing.
Mm-hmm. And then there's like. What Remains of Edith Finch, which like wears the shell of one of these, but then all the games with like bespoke mini games.
Yeah.
So it's become a much bigger thing, but they're good. I like it. I don't know. Video games are good. I should play Tacoma.
Yes, you should. Like the Magic Circle has like 1,000 mechanics and is just one of these still.
It has too many mechanics. Some would say.
Yes, absolutely. I would also say it has too many mechanics.
They're like, what if we put a bunch? I know it's a game about game mechanics. That's like the point of the game. There's a lot of stuff you got to do to get to the end of that, but it's a pretty good time. Yeah. So we are pro walking simulator, and the other thing with the Campo Santo stuff.
So do you want to tell people briefly what the Campo Santo thing is? Campo Santo made Firewatch, if you don't know. Also, caveat here, they are headed up by multiple members of the Adult Thumbs podcast, which is a podcast we have loved forever, and this podcast is modeled entirely after them in a lot of ways.
No way!
We literally started this podcast. Oh, you're being facetious. I thought you were actually arguing.
Hoisted. Oh, your babe. We are hungry, aren't we?
Yes. Okay. I've had one fun-sized Mounds bar today, and I've been up for like 5 hours.
Let's give this context. Let's do the plug zone, and let's fuck off. This podcast is like 90
Okay, so anyway,
long.
they made Firewatch. They recently got acquired by Valve. If you don't know, Valve runs Steam. They used to make video games, but they don't really do that anymore outside of Dota. And they were like, it's great, because they were... Literally, the Campo Santo thing is like, well, they would give us enough money to make whatever we wanted, and we're all going to die someday. So we said, yeah, sure, let's take it.
Yeah, so... I had a more reserved reaction to this to you, but I don't necessarily disagree with that. Like,
Jackson, they're going to take the money and they're not going to give it back.
We can't just insert in jokes, like deep in jokes from Idle Thumbs. I mean, they did. I guess their theme song is about setting sail for like this unknown treasure that no one has heard of.
Yes, which is Valve releasing a video game.
There is stories told of a treasure roll. So yeah, like what I assume this is going to go is they will basically, this is a comparison only in terms of the business arrangement. They will basically be like a Giant Bomb equivalent of Valve, in that Giant Bomb just sit in the office and do their own thing, but they make enough money that they are left alone. I don't expect this to like impede on their process. I don't think Valve are like gonna, make them change their games. They don't care. They have infinite money.
Yeah. And then when everyone asks Valve, why don't you make games anymore? They can point to this team and be like, they make games. We own them. We make games.
Yeah. Did they say that? I know they're moving to Seattle.
Yeah. So one of the things I think is really interesting, and maybe like not talked about, I listened to another podcast where the host recently left San Francisco. And he talked about specifically moving out of San Francisco as its own special hell, where moving companies charge thousands of dollars because they know you're desperate to get out of this hellscape where you're paying infinite rent for everything. So for Valve to come in and be like, we're going to move you all to Seattle. We'll just take care of it. It'll be part of acquiring you. I would take that in a fucking heartbeat. Are you kidding me? You all get moved. You all get new jobs. The Kotaku article was like, they went to Valve's company retreat in Hawaii recently. Yes, I will take a trip to Hawaii and being moved, all expensive paid, and a nice cush job in like the infinite money pit of video games, and still make the game I was already going to make. I would take that deal in a heartbeat. Are you kidding me? How could you ever not?
And they're not going to give it back.
Exactly. Even if it goes bad and like they make Valley of the Kings and it comes out and whatever, and then they wallow in Valve land where they never actually release a game again, they're getting paid. I like their podcasts. They'll probably keep doing those. Eventually they might leave and just form new companies like everyone does, and that's fine too. Like,
but they won't be living in San Francisco anymore, so they'll be fine.
Yes, they won't be living there. I also don't necessarily think it's like good to expect like teams to always be together and always be doing the thing they're doing with their lives, right?
Oh yeah, no. I mean, like, this was already a team of like Campo Santo was founded and like framed as like some developer supergroup, right? Because it was the Mark of Ninja guy, it was the Walking Dead guys, it was Ollie Moss, is that the name?
Yeah, the Mark of the Ninja guy already left, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
But like, that's what I mean. Is it was a group of people coming together from other places that they had done like interesting stuff before. I don't think there was ever an expectation that Campo Santo was going to be like a rigid team forever. Like, I don't expect Sean and Jake to stop working together because they are ride or die for life.
Yeah.
But aside from that, I don't think it's like guaranteed that 100%. Like, they're not going to keep making fake Firewatchers till the end of time. No one wants to do that.
Yeah. They probably don't want to do that. I don't want them to do that.
I wonder if this means that their third game will be more like system focused and ambitious. Because I know they always talk about, we'd like to be able to do a systems game, but there are 12 of us.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I think the reality is with small like prestige teams like this, you should never expect more than a couple games out of them, and that's fine. That's natural. Like, people break apart and form new dev studios that go on to make a game or two and then reconfigure, and that's just kind of life in like the post AAA being ubiquitous space.
Mm-hmm.
And like, fucking, I'm glad those guys got paid. I would take that money too.
Yeah.
Because Jackson was all like, I don't know. And I was like, no, get paid. I'd get paid in a heartbeat. I'd sell up normal mapping to Valve tomorrow.
To be fair, my was like, I was on the edge of like subscribing to Idle Thumb's Patreon because I'm sick of listening to the fucking ads.
Okay, fair enough.
But I don't really want to pay for them if they're getting that Valve money. It's specifically the Idle Thumbs Patreon. I want that stuff to be. I want to get the ad free. I don't want that podcast to have no ads. That's a very selfish want from the Valve money. But that's the only thing. Like, in terms of the video game studio, yeah, no, like, fucking sell out. I don't care. And I don't even mean sell out as a bad thing. Like, get paid.
Yeah.
Everyone gets acquired by someone one day. You like, they could get bought by EA. Who gives a shit? Like, they've lucked out way better than that. Yeah. Seems like a good deal. They don't even have to be in San Francisco anymore.
Oh, that's like the best thing of all is getting out of San Francisco.
Can you imagine how happy they all are? And also, they're all going together. So, I mean, is Nick still... Nick's founding a new studio too.
Yes. I mean, so Nick Brecken is part of the Idle Thumbs network. He went to Canada because whatever. This is kind of he went to Canada. He's like doing he's been doing contract work, right?
Yes, because he worked on Star Wars Battlefront 2 stuff. Or like VR, just doing contract work for games.
And he created a new studio, but his studio in the jobs thing specifically is like, this is all remote. So I assume whatever he's putting together is everyone's just on a group call talking about their work every day.
Does this mean he comes to Seattle with Idle Thumbs?
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, maybe he just stays in Canada. Whatever. They're gonna have to move the Idle Thumb studio.
I thought that they said when he moved to Canada that it was specifically a 6-month trip and he would be coming back.
Yes, but all things in life, who can ever predict?
I mean, if he stays in Canada, that's fine. But imagine coming back to San Francisco and all your friends have left.
That's fair. My apologies if you don't listen to Idle Thumbs or an important if true, because the end of this podcast is just some fucking bullshit you don't care about now.
Nick Brecken arriving in San Francisco and everyone's gone.
Oh, that's the perfect Nick Brecken experience.
Bum, bum, boom,
bye, Nick. Fuck Nick. Thanks for stopping by.
You can find our other shows.
No, we have another podcast, Jackson, next month.
Oh, okay.
Next month, we are playing Murdered Soul Suspect. We might have a guest. I don't know if we're actually having a guest or if we're just being directed to play this game.
I mean, they've said they want to be on, so yeah.
Okay, I didn't know. I'd not touched base with you on this, so I didn't remember.
No, we will be having a guest as part of the guest stuff.
Yeah, we'll be playing Murdered Soul Suspect. I already downloaded it. I'm excited. That game's like 8 hours long, right?
I think so. I'm worried I'm gonna have to buy it again.
You don't have it on Steam?
I have it on Steam, but I can't really play on my computer where I'm staying right now. I have it on PS4, but the disc is down in London.
Oh.
So I am double fucked.
Yep,
but that is the plan. Look forward to that in a month.
Yeah. Okay. Now you can do plugs.
I will do the plugs. Right. You can find our other shows at abnormalmapping.com. I am at Headballs on Twitter. You can find shows such as Second Officer Slug, which is a Star Trek podcast at StarTrekPodcast.space. We read books, we watch episodes. It's a good time. Come listen if you're into Star Trek. It was a recent episode that was just about the movie Star Trek 09, which is very light on. You don't have to have watched all of DS9 like a lot of DS9.
That episode was 3 weeks ago, Jackson.
Oh. Thanks for stopping by. There is Novel Not New, which is a visual novel podcast with you, Six, and Jen. Jen hosts, and you and Six play visual novels together. It's great. You just played Danganronpa 3, which basically destroyed all of your souls and made it
Danganronpa V3 as opposed to 3, which is the anime, which I did not watch, but Jen did.
Danganronpa.
You can find Novel Not New at the very shiny new URL, readinggames.online, because that's what we do there.
Yes, Reading Games Online. It is a good episode. It's a good show. You should listen to it. We also have the Amory Score, which is me and Molly going through the comics of Coheed and Cambria and also the music of Coheed and Cambria. It's very ridiculous. It has been on a regular schedule through my school situation. Like the last episode was me doing a monologue because we couldn't, we didn't get time to record a full thing. But when I am done with all this, we are back on the train all the way through to, well, presumably he has to burn Star 4.
I can't tell if I'm more excited for you to start doing Patreon letters again or for Amory Score to get back on a regular schedule.
I mean, you're definitely more excited for Amory Score because you're not excited for me to start doing. Technically, you're more excited to not have to do Patreon letters.
Yes.
The framing of that is very different.
I enjoy your writing also, thank you. But
sure. I didn't mean that as a down thing about my writing. I would be
anyway.
God,
I need mayo.com.
I need mayo.com. You too can need mayo.
I do. I need mayo in my life all the time. Holy shit. He's not in it enough.
He's not at all. Fireside Friends at firesidefriends.net, which is Ryan, Alan, and Katie's podcast. It is now monthly. It is a good time. Go listen to that. There might be some new podcasts coming soon. And we're going to be once I'm done with all this, I'm going to be doing like a little redesign to the website, and we're going to hopefully clarify a little bit of like what the website is, and we get more shows that aren't like technically part of the network.
Yes.
Because Fireside Friends is their own show, and it is not like an Abnormal Mapping Network show. They handle the editing. We don't do any of the work on that. And we want to make it a bit clearer about like differences between stuff that we...
Because we might have more shows like that in the near future.
We may have more shows like that in the near future. There are people I've reached out to that if they want to have their podcast uploaded on our thing, that I will helpfully take away their hosting costs.
Yes. We don't have rules for that. So, look, if someone has a podcast idea, they want to come to us for some hosting, you just send me a DM. If we're not mutuals, obviously this doesn't apply to you. Get fucked.
Yes, no. Our goal was to use the fact that we've got a Squarespace and the fact that we have our Patreon to provide free hosting to everyone else of our friends who has a good idea. Yes. It's not a unanimous, like, we will be any bullshit. No, if you're a good friend and you want to make a podcast, you don't have to pay SoundCloud their blood money.
Yeah. But gosh, you've really fucked up this.
We also have a Patreon.
In all honesty, this plug zone will probably be much shorter by next month because I think we're going to streamline it down to maybe talk about one show every episode.
Well, yes, as all these shows, yes, we'll.
Yes.
As the
anything that just ties in or highlights or whatever.
And I go through the Patreon and everything gets a little bit more redesigned after school. This stuff will become a little bit more streamlined. Also, it's a rowdy day. This episode's going to be like 2 hours because we've recorded another hour of podcast.
Yeah. So we have a Patreon. We are Patreon supported. Patreon.com/neuromapping. There's a variety of tiers. For $1 a month, you will get the Great Gundam Project, which means Jackson recorded right before this, which is why this sounds the way it does. We talk about Gundam 2 episodes every week. It's a very good time. I enjoy it so much. We had a Gundam question, right? Yeah, that happened in this podcast, not the last one.
About 7 years ago, we talked about Gundam.
And there's writing for us every week. I've been doing writing as Jackson's finishing up school that you can read. For $5, you can be on one of these shows, any of the shows for $10. It's a good time. Please support us. It literally does keep us going and like food bought and bills paid. It's important. And as always, Your Faves Would Never is now out there. You can go to yourfaveswouldnever.fyi for me and Destiny's podcast. It's good. You can get our Labo feels. I think that's it. You can find me on Twitter at em_being. Like I said, next month we are playing Murdered Soul Suspect. Thank you so much for your patience with this long, ridiculous podcast. I had a great time. Thanks, everybody. Goodbye, Jackson. Goodbye, everyone. Goodbye. Thanks for stopping by.
Fuck off!